And just like that, it is season 2 of Catch Some Soulshine. Thank you for joining me on this journey of healing through life's darkest moments. I've had some time to reflect, and I've gotten so much insight from all the guests that I've had on season 1 that I want to dig a little deeper in season 2. This season, I'm going to focus on healing your mind, igniting your soul, and embracing creative living. And the reason behind that is because I know that you can live a joyful, inspired life if you take certain actions. While listening to this podcast, I'm going to give you plenty of information to act upon. Grab a cup of coffee because it's time to catch some soulshine. Today, I am joined by Dr. Sara Hegy, a leadership development career coach based in Germany. She took her PhD from ideation to 2.7 million US dollars and received international recognition. Later, she decided to quit being an employee and reach for freedom. 3 years later, she has won several international recognitions for the leadership work. She owns an e-com store with 2 previous clients who are now partners. And Sara is the author of a 10-article series in Brains magazine. That's Brainz. Please check that out. I'll have a link in the comments. She's committed to enabling people's best potential through education and coaching. And you can find her on LinkedIn, and also I will have some information in the comments. We have tried to record this how many times? I don't even know. We had a full conversation for about an hour, and that's why I know that you are going to get so much out of this. I think we're going to have several podcasts because there's just a wealth of information that she provides. I've learned a lot, and I'm excited to talk to her. You know, the whole premise of this podcast is awakening brilliance after life's darkest moments. We've talked about contrast, right? You can't have depression without immense joy. So, if you would like to begin sharing a little bit about that.
Let's get this started. So first of all, I'm so very excited to be with you. And don't you just love technology despite the glitches, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I'm in Europe and you're in the US and we're creating this amazingly brilliant conversation for people, it makes my heart sing, you know? So thank you so very much for having me. And I'm really excited and looking forward to all of the wealth of insights that people will get from this conversation.
Right.
So to start off, I think what I just let me give you a little bit about my background so that you get to know who's talking to you from Berlin, Germany. So basically, I come from Cairo, Egypt, and my family has always been given us, like, you know, this pathway of education as a pathway to develop in life. They're like, you need to get educated because education opens opportunities that creates your future. And so from that conversation, I kind of worked my way out to being a top student in university, traveling to Germany to study for my master's and my PhD. And little did I know, the side of education, so the postgraduate degree and everything that came along with that, has been an immense discovery phase for me in my life. Because I left Cairo and I came to Heidelberg in Germany at the age of 20, and I was very young and I came alone. And so I kind of got very scared and isolated in my environment. I stopped being myself, but I didn't know what was going on. And so the years went by. I was hustling like crazy, working super hard. I got really exhausted and tired, and I kind of lost myself along the way. And that's when I hit burnout and I hit severe depression. And I hit severe depression when my work was in the world's best academic journal, and that's Nature. So I was Nature Revisions, and I remember this day very clearly because I was like, I'm not feeling well anymore. And then my friend told me, okay, maybe you need to go to a psychiatrist. And I went to a psychiatrist, and it was like from the moment that she said, how are you? And I like completely, how can I say, burned down in tears, you know, like tears just started going so much down my eyes. And then at the end of the conversation, I got that I had a mid to severe episode of depression, basically depressive episode. And then she was like, okay, you need to get into therapy and stuff like this. And I was shocked, because where I come from, this is just not a good conversation. It's a red sign. And so I took this and I went home, and I remember sitting in my chair and on my bed, and I was like, can this get any worse? And so I decided to go to a psychologist, sorry. And he was German, and he was a man. And then we had a conversation. And in this conversation, I did not really experience that I heard something that will allow me to get better. So by the end of the conversation, we kind of he pointed out a few things that he thought was the basis of my struggle. And I stepped away from his conversation knowing that I would never go back to his space. Why? Because I felt like this is not the right help that will help me get over my struggle. And so over the next few months, I started doing a little bit better on my own, and then falling back off. And then some problems would happen at work, and I would get really very triggered. I would have psychosomatic pain. I would try to reach out for help, but I couldn't get any appointments. And then everybody kept saying, you need to go on antidepressants. So I'd go book the appointment for the doctor, for the general doctor or other doctors, and then they would say the same. But because I studied pharmacy, I know that antidepressants have some efficacy, but they have some effect, which is good, but they have a lot of side effects. And so knowing that there are side effects to these medications kind of scared me and had me go back. And so every time I was stepping forward, I would go back and I wouldn't take the prescription. And so one time I was at home, so on holidays, and then I just got that I feel so bad that I need to get real help. This is not working. And so from this conversation, then I decided I tell my family I'm not feeling well. I need to go on antidepressants, and that's just it. And then, of course, my family thought no, you're fine. You just need to rest a little bit, And so my dad got me into, some person he knows who is a therapist. And we had a conversation. He's like, don't leave to Germany without getting antidepressants. And then again, I would go, and then I would be okay, I'm going to take the appointment to go to the doctor. And I actually went to the doctor, and I stayed there 1.5 hours. And then there was still some waiting time. I'm like, how come this is even helping me get better? If I would if I need something, and then I have my flight the next morning, and then this person is not just taking care of my time, right? And there's I don't know, I just did not feel well. I did not feel that this is the right thing for me. And so I went away from this clinic and stepped away without even seeing the doctor. And this was this until a few months later, I met my coach. And so I met her in a workshop, and it was about women and women's career as a scientist. And it was just amazing, because inside of the training, I got in touch with my brain and my mind. And I got that I could have a vision for myself. And it was really the first time in all of my journey, since I stepped foot outside of Cairo, that I discovered enablement. That experience that my struggle is going to be over. I really, we did a visualization exercise. And I could, in all honesty, tell you, this was the first moment that I could see light at the end of the tunnel. So it was so very real to me that I just completely, again, my tears went down, and I was so happy. I don't know, I was so relieved, even though nothing happened, but I thought I experienced it in my mind. And so afterwards, my coach said, let's work together. And I said, really? Yes, let's do it. And over the next few months, I discovered myself and rediscovered what awakening really is. And so what happened is that not only did I get over my depression, not only did I not take any meds, but I really completely, entirely changed the course of my future. because not only did I get everything that I wanted, and the rest was miraculous, I got more. I got this international recognition. I was, like recognized for my work, but also for my story that inspired so many people. And so I just wanted to start off with that context because it pours so nicely into the context of your podcast. And
Yeah, and I wanted to say too, I had a similar experience, and I do wanna put this out there. I am pro antidepressant medication. I am pro getting help. I am pro therapy. However, when my son died, I had gone to the doctor because I was not sleeping. I was very depressed, grieving, and, he also gave me a prescription for antidepressants, and I had the same feeling, like, I don't know, like, I've never been depressed. Is this really a depression, or, is it grief? Do I really need this medicine? And I may have taken one of them, and then I was like, I don't wanna take this." That's when I really started the deep dive into all the other stuff that is available to us that we don't utilize. Community, connection, using creativity, all that stuff. I think it's interesting that you struggled with that too, because I ended up not taking antidepressants, and I don't really need antidepressants. Do I have sadness? Of course. Everyone has sadness, especially when you experience something so traumatic like the loss of your child. It's really not, it's horrible. There is life on the other side. There is joy. I'm doing things today that I never thought I would do. This
yeah,
podcast, for example, meeting you from Germany. Go figure. I just wanted to throw that out there, and I love, love, love the way you use the word enable, because it's been such a derogatory term toward me for so many years because my son struggled with substance use. That word enable is thrown at parents all the time. We often say in this group that I'm in, I enabled him to breathe. I enabled him to feel loved. And that was my purpose of my enabling.
100%.
So,
Such a beautiful word, right?
when you use it in the context that you use it, yes, it's beautiful and I embrace it.
I think I just want to throw out like this first learning or insight that we want
Yeah,
to get our audiences to hear, which is oftentimes we get to experience events in life that trigger us into sadness. And
yeah,
that's the reality of sadness that nobody tells us about, is that you want to, like, when you experience being sad, it's because there is more inside of you. There is the struggle between the subconscious and the conscious. So you know that you feel stuck, like consciously, but there is this thing outside, like inside of you, that tells you to keep going from the
right.
subconscious. And then it's really like doing this pathway of development to close the gap and get the conscious, like soul or body or whatever it is that you want to call it, to get close to and work again with the subconscious. So you guys experience, both components of you experience realignment and
Mhm,
collaboration again. And that's when you know yourself as somebody who not only conquered this phase of your life, but evolved into the next version of your life. And I was
mhm.
just telling this to my client today in our session. I was saying, because she was like, this is so unlike me, and I'm proud of myself. And I was like, if I could invite you to embrace this, that you don't say it's so unlike me, you say it's so unlike the old me, so that you could really how can I say this? You could really ground yourself into you could ground yourself into all of those phases of my life are me and I'm evolving through them. This
Mhm.
means I don't have to be ashamed of what was. I could still look forward and connect what was into who I am now and who I, I want to become. So you really ground the self-love into existence. And that's what we want to educate people on, because oftentimes people get stuck, they blame themselves, they put themselves down, they don't go get help that is enabling to them. And
Mhm.
so it's like this, I told you this before, but it's like this beautiful painting that you have, in the background. When you enable something, it means, like, you think of it as repainting a painting that is just not working for you anymore, that is just not your style anymore. So you kind of, when you come to a coaching like conversation, so as a development pathway, what we first do is we smoothen all of those colors together. We just like water it, we like how neutralize it, let's say, so that it goes back to a neutral background. And this is when you kind of feel this being okay with everything that happened in your past and really learning from it. And then at a certain moment when it's all monotonous and there is it's clean, this is when you can teach people something, like see what kind of skills are they missing out to execute on their vision, on their higher purpose or whatever. And then you start educating them. And so the moment that you get that it's all connected, and it's just a journey of undressing, those colors that you don't like anymore and embracing new colors and recreating new paintings, that's when you get to evolve into a new you. And that's
Mhm.
the beauty about depression, grief, and stuff.
I'm thinking about the color thing that you're saying, and in my mind, this is how I'm working it out. So those colors may still be on a layer underneath my painting, right? They're still part of that painting, but you can make the colors more vibrant by painting something over them. Doesn't mean that that part of you, that experience, is ever going to go away. It's part of you, but I don't have to live there anymore. And I just had a week not too long ago. It was just kind of a down time, and there was one particular day I was just down, thinking of my child and all the losses that I've experienced. And I made a decision that I wasn't going to shove that down. I was just going to feel it. I was going to experience it. I was just going to slow down, not do anything. And before, early on in my journey, I used to just shove that away and like get helping and do things and try and help other people and not feel that. But this time I made a point to feel it, move through it, and I didn't have to wallow in it. You know what I mean? I just moved on. I think that's important because a lot of times, you think of a little kid, they'll fall down and they'll hurt themselves. You're okay, right? That's what we teach people. Don't feel it. It's okay. Move on. I think there's a real purpose, a real importance of sitting with that pain for a little bit and then using some tools that we're going to talk about to move through them, make new pathways in the brain so that we can live this happy, joyous, free, vibrant, beautiful, colored life.
100%. I love this so much. And I would even say that when a kid falls down and they cry, when they feel better, you then ask them what went wrong here in performance, in actions, so that
Yeah.
the kid could then learn, okay, I did that wrong. Okay, this is not the right strategy. So let me try something else. Let me try a new recipe. And so this part of education is completely missing for us as adults. And it's actually also has been completely missing in our schooling systems. So you kind of
Right.
like get those degrees, those informations, even in schools of psychology. You get psychology as a bunch of information that is taught to you. You don't do the work, but actually doing the work and walking the walk is the most beautiful experience ever, because you get to experience those moments of joy, those moments of sadness, and then you get to learn from them with the right tools and education. And that is when you enable yourself to grow through your experiences. And because this education has been completely missing, that's when you say, okay, I need some help with having a person whose experience is at my back, who could teach me those tools so that I could do life my terms, and then I could embrace and enable myself and enable people I love. And that's really leadership.
I think that's such a huge thing I've never talked about on this podcast before is, yeah, what do you do when a kid falls down and scrapes their knee? We never go into, so what went wrong here and what can you do differently? Because that is building the new neural pathway at child level. I talk about building new neural pathways in adult level because that's what I have learned to do. But why don't we use that with kids? Why don't we start right off the bat? Think how great
100%.
our culture, our world, our everything would be if we had those tools, those skills. I
It's
went
one.
back to school too at 45. I went back to school and got my master's degree. I don't know that it was for the exact right reason because my purpose in doing that was as a nurse, I was working nights, weekends, holidays, missing time that I wanted to be at home. And I thought, well, if I teach nursing, I will work Monday through Friday, no weekends, no holidays. And not that I didn't enjoy that to a certain extent, but that's not really where my heart is. My heart is working with people and helping people. So then I went back to school again for my nurse practitioner. My life has just really forged on a path of helping people who have been impacted by substance use and mental health. And it's so rewarding, that kind of work for me. But I think we talked about this earlier. Your motive has to be what's going to bring you joy in life. And I think people would be interested to know, like your family, we talked about this earlier, pro education really gave up a lot for you to get your master's, your PhD, and then you made this decision, I don't want a boss. I'm going to do what makes me happy. And I, when I think of that, I think, what courage. I mean, first of all, your whole story is full of courage, moving to a different country, leaving your family all by yourself. But then, after all those sacrifices, now you're going to tell them, I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to do that anymore.
They were shocked at, like, many different levels. They were like, from, oh my God, what is going on here, to this is not my daughter, and everything in the middle, really. I have to say, though, that my motive was not to stop getting a boss, because I loved my bosses. They're the reason why I succeeded, because I saw them as my enablers. See, I took their experience and I was like, okay, how can I use their experience to become better as a person who owns the project and develops the project? And how can I use their experience for the project to become better? So it's really like, I really enjoyed the whole experience of being in collaboration with them and stuff like this. But what I didn't enjoy is that I would work 16 and 18 hours. And sometimes I did 20 hours, but like really rarely. But like sometimes I would hit that. And I know that there are so many doctors out there, nurses, who are doing the same. And then at the end, it was really a 1,500 euros. That is just like, okay, a little bit above okay for a student, but it's definitely not a good return on investment for my effort and what I've put into this. So the main reason was, first of all, I was so inspired by my own coaching journey. Had I not had the coaching, I would have never succeeded in this PhD, and I would have never had anything that came after. So it was really like this coaching thing that opened up so much perspective in my brain and got me reconnected to my purpose. I wanted to like contribute to science because I wanted to contribute to humanity. And as a matter of fact, ever since I was a little kid, like people would call me Dr. Sarah because they saw that my ideal answer was, I want to become a doctor because I want to help humanity.
Yeah.
So I really have this help humanity at the center of it all. And so I saw like the pathway of science and research and development to help humanity. But then I realized, okay, this is not, I want to help humanity still, but I just don't want to be in the lab all the time. I want to work with humans to help humanity. And so this coaching thing is just lit like me up completely. And I was like, oh my God, I could do this. And then when I went into the job market and stuff, it was in Corona times. And I was like, I'm looking for something that is enabling and will allow me to use my best skill. And I also want to get the experience of having a lot of money, building things, developing things and stuff like that. And that's, for myself was now, if I look back, it was really the biggest motive. I want to like engage in this entrepreneurship like journey, let's say. And I also want to create wealth. And so I knew that having a job just there and then, it's just not going to help me create wealth. And I knew also that because I had a previous experience that is not entrepreneurship based, so it's not that I studied business, I studied science. And so I want to do this decision as early as possible so that I get more and more experience. And so that's really how it kind of evolved into me that I want to step into this new field. But like you said, like barrier to entry to coaching industry is generally very low. My parents were shocked that I would give up this career success that I had and I created out of nothing for myself. And I invested so many years of development in that to just be an ordinary coach. And so this really like there was this thing where it's like, no, this is not her reality. We're not going to let her do that. But little did I know that like having this with my family has really opened up my perspective once more to look like, how can I create great relationships with my family? Because now they don't have to tell me to study anymore because I'm done studying. But now I'm just dealing with the great human beings who source me. And so I started looking into, okay, I had like a lot of problems with my dad. I'm a lot like my dad, by the way. Like I look like him not only, but also I act like him and so many different things, my courage, my leadership, stuff like that. And yet I didn't have a great relationship to him at a time. And so I started looking into that and cleaning that up and giving it a new perspective that allows me to elevate my life experience. And that's when I knew that all of this, what they're saying back then, was like just a momentary thing. And they had never trusted me, to take decisions before because there were no decisions to be taken. It was just like studying, more studying, studying, more studying, and stuff like this. Right. And okay, I said I want to move to Germany because Germany has the best education in Europe. So I want to go there. And so they trusted that, but it was kind of in their vision. But really, coaching is the thing that I did for myself, being an entrepreneur, being at service for people. And so this was really the phase where I evolved into that great human being who's committed to make a difference.
I'm quite a bit older than you, but there's just something inside of me that I really want to help people. And I really want to get into this coaching segment because, and I have a coach too, because it's helped me so much. And when you talked about your relationship with your dad, I had 4 kids and Bradley was number 3. My youngest son, Noah, and I have been like butting heads for years. When I really look at it, it's because I want him to be successful. He's very intelligent, has some mental health issues, hasn't really been successful at any job. He tried to go to school, and I just get so frustrated and we just argue, argue, argue all the time. Well, a few weeks ago, he had this idea he's going to do this landscaping business. I'm just like, oh, here we go again. It's amazing because he is absolutely loving it, and he's getting calls from people from all over to do landscaping, and he's working with another guy. I am just sitting back going,
I know.
"This is awesome. This is what I've wanted. This is our relationship is getting better."
I experienced that when you trust, I think, we live as human beings right now, we live in a lot of fear. The
Yeah.
environment has a lot of fear all the time. And so
Mhm.
you really want, I see this with parents and their kids. So when like some of my clients are parents and their kids, because I'm really like, guys, I don't want to talk about what happens at home. I want to show you together, like you want to shadow me so that we can get better at what happens at home.
Mhm.
So when I see what I see also is that there are a lot of fear in the conversations, in the communication, and that's why parents tend to push their kids, right? Okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. But in that space, there is no enablement because there is no discovery. There is no like, okay, I'm gonna paint my own painting. There is somebody who's telling me, you want to put some red here, you want to do it, you want to do it. It's good for you. Put red here because it's good for you. And so you just lose that experience of self trust to take your own decisions, but it takes you longer. And so when the parents get to relax and educate their kids on, so first of all, they need to get educated. It's not that they need to, but well, they get to if they want to have a great life, so that they could have the skill set of leading themselves effectively. And that's what I talk a lot about in the Brian's magazine article series. Like, you want to understand how you decide, what do we mean by vision, how does your brain take decisions, what does, when your brain gets stuck, why does it get stuck? And so you want to get those core processes very well understood, digested, and you take actions that are consistent with, I'm getting over this phase of my life that has happened in the past, or that connects me to the past in a weird way, or in a way that I'm dissatisfied about or dissatisfied with. And then you say, okay, I want to create a vision. I want to have people help me get there. And then when you experience yourself as somebody who does that, like over and over again, what happens is that you start giving it naturally, without pressure, to people you
Mhm.
love.
Mhm.
You start saying, can I offer you this perspective? Can I show you this? Oh my God, I was so inspired by this. And so the kid then shadows the parent and sees, okay, wow, my parent is really good at this and that. I love their perspective here and there. And so they get to really build the muscle of taking their own decisions and creating their own beautiful paintings, like the one we
Yeah.
see in the back.
Thank you. It's a challenge when, you really want your kids to be successful, you want them to be independent. When you see them struggling, it's hard not to just get in there and try and fix it, especially as a nurse. Like, I'm a fixer, right?
I
I
know.
wanna fix things for people, but I have learned that letting people fix their own messes is ultimately what's best for them. Am I 100% great at it? No, because even today, my youngest stopped by and he's like, "I'm gonna take today off." And I'm like, "Well, it's sunny outside, and as a landscaper, shouldn't you take advantage of this?" And then I was like, "Oops."
Nice, nice.
But, those we talked about neural pathways before, right? Those old pathways are still there. We just gotta flex that muscle to make the new pathways strong and resilient. And I think we talked about like little habits, atomic habits that you use every day. Do something small every single day until it becomes a habit that you don't even think about. And then after a while, you can add something else that you might not think about. And then you build this core structure of a new pathway. And even though the old one is still there, you've got this strong new pathway, so you're going to bypass it.
The thing I want to complete this part with here is that I see a lot of coaches do their systems. So they come up with their systems as to how they reached a certain result. And so when you get there, you're like, okay, show me how, and then you start struggling with your own personality, with how you do things and stuff. And there is a certain power that I've discovered out of doing this work for myself. Not because I want to follow someone's system, while systems are great and they're enabling, they give you freedom. But what I've discovered is without getting the knowledge of the core pathways that you use every day, to think and speak and feel and stuff like this, and just like exercising those pathways into habits and skill sets, without getting all of this picture and all of this education, not as somebody's system, but as a process, as a universal process that is happening outside of you and inside of you without you having control over it. So I always talk about the experience of planting a seed and then just putting it into a soil and letting it grow by watering it the right way. And this is, where the system and the habits come in. And the seed has to just evolve and take its time into the next step and the next step and stuff like this. So it's really a natural evolution. And when you get the laws of human evolution in terms of thinking, there's a certain power in that you just flex your own muscles to get, your own visions fulfilled, basically. So I really see this as an educational movement and not just something to get you somewhere and then you stop.
I'll tell you here's an example. So when I was 45, I made a decision that I was going to run a half marathon. And I trained religiously. I followed a book. Every day I did a certain number of miles. I had my rest days built in. I accomplished my goal and I ran that half marathon. And then I stopped running. And slowly, I started gaining weight. I thought to myself, why did I ever stop running? I had a destination in mind. I didn't have a lifestyle in mind. So when I talk about creativity, just do a little something every day. And why? Because it makes me feel better. It helps my brain. It calms me. I think about that visualization, the endorphins in the brain. It gives me those dolphins swimming in my brain. And why wouldn't I want to do that every single day? It doesn't have to be good or fantastic or this wonderful piece of art, just something every day. And I think that's the point that I missed when I was doing that half marathon, because when I was doing that training, I felt good. I felt good physically, emotionally, no matter where I went on vacation, I was committed, and then I just stopped.
Very interesting. I have two takes and I want to say them both. Okay, listen up. I think it's a really such a cool example as to you create new neural pathways because you have a vision, but because you didn't exercise the muscle very well, mentally, why do I want to run? What does that make available to me in my life? What's the victory in there? And so you did not create it for yourself like that. Your old habits, because you were not self-aware as to why running for a lifetime, what difference would it make to you? Why is it a good thing for you? So because you didn't have that awareness and knowledge as to why I want to do it, then what happened is your old pathways set in and you kind of lost the fight there, basically. And that's when I don't like to, where it is self-sabotage, because you're elevating and then you're self-sabotaged you towards the old stuff. But I feel like it's more an awareness thing, so when I become aware as to why I eat, what are my eating habits, when do I eat, why don't I exercise regularly, what is the things I'm telling myself about exercise, and I start committing to being healthy and having a vision to kind of paint a beautiful picture with my body and my structure. And then I start challenging myself. And I have somebody at my back who's holding me accountable. Because that's why people get, like to lose sight of what matters, really, because they just get lazy, they make themselves wrong, they start judging, And so when you lose this accountability, or when you don't have accountability to begin with, then what happens is you just go back so quickly and you lose like the victory of elevating. Right.
Yeah.
So I think this is definitely one take that I have here. And the second is, you mentioned something that us as highly committed human beings have been so wrongly taught since we were little kids. So ever since I was a little girl, I was told that I need to plan. I need to plan. I should be a good planner to succeed. So I take my notebook, I write down how I want my day to look like. And so I go through my day, and I'm like, oh my God, my day is not looking exactly like what I planned. I am a terrible planner. And so next time I try to do it better, and then I give up on myself. I feel that this is also, my experience, this is also such a big block for people who are highly committed, because they are told they should be good planners, but that is wrong. You shouldn't be anything. You get to be like an adaptable and flexible leader who knows how to lead the way for themselves with those set of knowledge, tools, and education. And then you're just like being adaptable to the circumstances and what happens, and you learn how to act versus react, how to not react in a self-sabotaging way, or how to not put yourself down, or how to not put others down. And so your experience of life becomes a lot better, because guess what? You cannot control life. You cannot control your plan. Your plan is mostly not going to happen. And then you just need to create some headlines as structures and systems, and then you exercise the muscle of being so adaptable and having those like structures very adaptable that they could play with you when circumstances happen on the outside. But people lose sight of all of these processes, and then at the end of the day, they're so very frustrated with themselves, and they decide they're not doing this again.
Yeah,
Right?
throw in the towel. Right.
Exactly. So they
Exactly.
lose. I remember the days when I just like told myself all of these bad conversations. I was so mean to myself, just so you know.
I do still exercise, but yesterday I took my granddaughter on a 2-mile hike at the rock quarry, and it was just a leisurely walk, but it was 2 miles, and we took in the nature and saw a baby fox and some butterflies, and it was a beautiful day. And I think I was so rigid before with this, have to do this, have to follow this plan, and now that I've eased up on myself, exercise becomes so much more enjoyable when I can fit it into the flow of my life.
I struggled to go to the gym for the longest time. I felt so aware and insecure that I wouldn't do it. And then the moment that I said, okay, I am elevating every aspect of my life, and that's my commitment. So my health must elevate. Why? Because when I elevate my health, then my ability, and that's really what we're doing at the core of all of this work, is we're increasing our ability to live a fulfilled life.
Thanks for joining me on this special 3-part series with Dr. Sara Hegy. I wanted to point out her website is www.sarahhegy.com. I will have that linked in the comments. I really encourage you to go to her Facebook page, Dr. Sara Hegy. She's on LinkedIn, she's on Instagram and YouTube. You can follow her on all those social medias and check out her articles in Brains Magazine. I look forward to next week and the following week as we conclude this 3-part series with Dr. Hegy. Thanks again. I will see you next week.